In this video, I'm going to talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It was developed by Abraham Maslow, who's one of the more prominent humanistic psychologists that emerged in the 50s and 60s, along with Carl Rogers and a few others. I see the hierarchy of needs as fitting in quite well with the actualizing tendency, in that it posits the idea that all behaviour is goal-orientated as an attempt to get our needs met in some way or another. I think the hierarchy of needs fleshes things out a bit more. I feel like the actualizing tendency is really broad and open-ended. With the hierarchy of needs, he really tries to kind of go into detail about the specific needs that human beings have and the priority of those needs. And I think because it goes into specific detail about the nature of the different needs, there's a risk of it becoming prescriptive if you're not careful. I'll talk about that a bit later though. For now, let's just get stuck into what the hierarchy of needs actually is. The hierarchy of needs is often presented as a big old triangle, as you can see here. And the idea is that, generally speaking, people are always wanting to satisfy some or all of these different needs, with the needs at the bottom being prioritised and the needs further up only really being focused on if the needs below them are satisfied, or at least relatively satisfied. So, for example, food, water, warmth, rest, those are the kind of things that if you don't have those things, for example, if you're starving to death, you are likely to be focused on finding food. That's going to be the thing that you're always paying attention to. If the organism wants to survive, it'll prioritise the things that are more immediately tied in with survival. And once your more immediate needs have met, because the organism always wants to grow, you'll start looking at needs that are further up this pyramid, which might be less related to immediate survival and more to do with growth and flourishing and living the best life you can. So, for example, after you have a sense of security and safety, you may naturally start thinking about developing intimate relationships, whether that's close friendships, romantic relationships and things like that. Then if you've got all your immediate needs, you feel safe and secure, you feel connected with people around you, you may well start feeling an urge towards being recognised in your field, being acknowledged as being competent in a certain area and being respected and regarded well by people in a broader sense. Things don't stagnate. Things don't stay still. If you do one thing, you achieve one thing, you get certain needs met, your attention naturally will start getting paid towards other things that you can work towards. In this sense, life is an ongoing process. There's no point at which this process stops. You'll always be working towards something or doing something to satisfy your needs or at least maintain them. The last section on here is self-actualization. It's often referred to as transcendence as well. This is where maybe you've got everything else in place and you naturally start thinking about achievements outside of yourself, whether that's like a broader political cause or some kind of creative pursuit or something like that. This is perhaps when your attention naturally gets paid to the world as a whole and what you can do to contribute and improve it. You could look at different concepts like the hierarchy of needs as a roadmap. I think that's quite a good analogy. It's a roadmap, it can help you get around, it can help you see a few things and it can help you understand the general terrain, but the map is not the terrain itself. You know, if you're trying to travel around a city, you need to look at the road. Even if the map is amazing, you need to look at the road. And it's the same with therapy. There's loads of different concepts and ideas for explaining how people work. And I think they can be really useful, but I think it's really vital that you don't let the concepts get in the way of the person. And I think with the hierarchy of needs, there's a potential for it to do that because it attempts to explain so much. One issue I have specifically is with this big old pyramid that it's often presented as. I don't think Maslow did have anything to do with it being presented in this way. And for me, it gives a sense of fixedness, which I don't think is actually in line with the truth. It's not in line with my experience anyway. I don't think I'm in a fixed level on this pyramid. I think my needs change on a minute-to-minute basis. Right now I'm recording this. Maybe in 10 minutes or something, I'll start to feel a bit thirsty and I'll start to notice, oh, I'm a bit thirsty. Eventually I'll go and get something to drink. Maybe I'll get something to eat as well if I feel hungry. And so my awareness is due to, I think, a configuration of all of these different needs interacting and mixing with each other. And so the idea that, oh, I've transcended this level, I'm now at this level. No, now I'm at this level. I think it's always changing. I think it's more complex than that. It's not fixed. Similarly, there are some things that are more complex than just being in one. For example, me doing this course? On the one hand, I suppose it's easier to say that it's to do with self-actualization and esteem, the idea of being seen by people and well regarded and all this. Might be to do with why I'm doing it. Might be something to do with, it's a creative enterprise. I want to do the best job I can, and I want to look at it and say that is the best I can do. And maybe that's pulling from self-actualization. Maybe also, though, I want to be seen by people. Maybe I'm tired of, and this is somewhat true, I'm tired of people I know not having a clue what I do for a living and not understanding it. So it's maybe something to do with that. Also, I might earn some money out of this, and that might help me pay my bills, and that might make me feel a bit more secure in the fact that I might not lose my house one day. Because like many people, that is somewhat on my mind, that possibility. And the point is that I don't think it's as simple, even if you look at one particular thing that someone does. It's a configuration, it's a mixture of lots of different things. A lot of person-centered theories and concepts in general are focused on enabling the therapist to offer an open space to a client. It's more about being able to hold uncertainty and be with their process in the present moment than it is about filling the gaps and explaining their behaviour. With the hierarchy of needs, I think there is a potential for it to be used to explain all behaviour, all human behaviour, and I'm really trying to warn against using it like that. Maslow was writing quite a while ago now. His book that I read, Motivation and Personality, was written in 1954, for example. There have been people who have updated his ideas, though, in light of new research and evidence, and generally just had a look at the concept again. Scott Barry Kaufman, for example, has written a book called Transcend, The New Science of Self-Actualization, that came out in 2020, and it kind of serves as an update to the hierarchy of needs in light of new information. The metaphor he uses to explain the hierarchy of needs is a sailboat rather than a pyramid, and I think that's quite useful because it splits the needs up into security-based needs and growth-based needs. So the security-based needs, safety, connection, self-esteem, that's presented here as the hull of the ship, and growth-related needs like purpose, love and exploration, they correspond with the sail of the ship. I suppose the idea is that you're not likely to be thinking about how to manoeuvre your sail and how to go in a particular direction towards your goals if there's a hole in the hull and water's leaking in. You're not going to get to anywhere until you fix the hull. And similarly, a lot of people, I suppose, don't tend to think about these growth needs when their basic security needs aren't being met. There's a couple of quotes here from Kaufman's book, which I think tally up quite well with the book on violence and the discussion about that we had in the last video about why people behave in destructive ways at times. The person who behaves badly behaves so because of hurt, actual and expected, and lashes out in self-defense, as a cornered animal might. Give people affection and security, and they will give affection and be secure in their feelings and behaviours. In other words, everything that's nasty, mean or vicious is an overcompensatory attempt to satisfy the basic needs of security, affection and self-esteem. That's not to say that people aren't responsible for their own behaviour, because I think people need to be. I don't know where that leaves us if we decide that people aren't responsible for themselves. What it does suggest, I think, is a real need to take some collective responsibility for reducing the conditions that result in trauma and abuse and people feeling chronically unsafe. And that'd involve things like putting an effort in to get rid of poverty altogether and funding support services so people are actually supported properly as well. This, I think, in the short and long term would reduce a lot of suffering, but also, if this is really what matters to you, it'd save us money as well, because it'd prevent all kinds of social issues further down the line. I don't intend on banging the political drum for the sake of it, by the way. I do think it's important to acknowledge when there is an overlap between broader social factors and an individual's mental health. My ultimate aim as a therapist is to improve people's mental health, and I suppose if broader social issues are having an impact on that, I think it'd be a bit naive for me to ignore that entirely, so that's why I just thought I'd mention it.